quick video response to DoNotGod on objective morality. I'll probably post this as a response to your video, Gary, even though it's you're addressing not just myself but also Pyro. Yeah, I mean there is a language thing, and you might be right in that I'm probably just obsessing over language, but I do think there are some inherent problems if in using the right terms. And objective is one that I'm worrying the bone quite a bit about, and it might be excessive on my part, I accept that. But it seems to me that one of the difficulties of using a word like objective, if you're not really careful, and I'm not talking about using it in conversation. I think it's fine. If you've got all the paraphernalia of conversation around the sides of it, like a live conversation, it's fine because you can explain what you mean as you're going along. But I think using it in a way that kind of hangs around after you're gone, you know what I mean, in the way that Ayn Rand used it, for example, who you mentioned in your video, it causes all kinds of problems. And I think one of the problems it causes is that it's if you're not really careful, you're accidentally buying into someone else's arguments. And I think objective is one of those terms, particularly applied to morality, but also to other things as well. But yeah, morality for now. I think if you're using objective as a term for morality, there's already a lot of discourse going on out there that uses that term in very particular ways and moves those metaphors around that you talk about and that I tried to talk about in my previous one, and uses those to kind of create a set of thoughts which aren't necessarily the same ones that you're trying to use when you're using the term, or I'm using the term objective. And anyway, you mentioned Ayn Rand, and I think that's a good example of that. She's using it in a very particular way. I should have made notes, actually. You say something about you say something about her using it, and then you say that you're using it in a way which is obviously rational. It is obvious, but it's only obvious because you're here talking about it. When you're dead, and when I'm dead, and there's only a few little bits of digital remains left, those are the words that will hang around, unfortunately, and we won't be there to qualify them. So I just think it's quite useful. So when you use an objective, I think you are, if you're not really careful, buying into something like Ayn Rand's understanding of objectivity, or you're buying into some kind of transcendent claim, which is pretty much what I was trying to get at, which is I think why I know you don't entirely buy the object rock metaphor thing, but I do think it informs a lot of our thinking, and yeah. So I just think if you're not careful, that just stuff stays around. So if you're not buying into Ayn Rand or leaning in that direction, you're leaning into some other kind of transcendent claim which flies very close to some kind of theology, which you may not be comfortable with. So that's my reticence about that word, and why I'm kicking around other terms like universal, which brings its own problems, I accept that, and like human, which brings its own problems. Yeah, then none of them are perfect. Someone else suggested into subjective, which again brings its own problems. Yeah. All right, a couple of things, not necessarily what you were saying, but things that are attached to that, or that I've noticed other people saying around the sides of your video. One is this stuff, actually some of the stuff you do say, Gary, you were talking about values and morality kind of existing out there in the universe, and I think Elenkos says something similar in a comment on your DoNotGod site. I don't buy that, I really don't. I don't buy value and I don't buy morality as existing independently of human beings, which isn't to say that value and morality are therefore up for grabs, and then we can just choose what to have. I don't think that's not the alternative. But the universe without us, I mean, where would that value be? I mean, when the universe was just chemicals, where was the value? Where did it emerge? The value of one chemical to dissolve another chemical, that was kind of value. When early life forms began to kind of swim around and populate the earth, where was the value? The value was, the life form that was eating, or the life form that was being eaten, or where was the value in that? And where was the morality in that? If you're talking about chemicals don't have morality. Single-celled organisms don't have morality. There's a great line in the film The Fly, the Jeff Goldblum version of The Fly, where he's talking about, he's halfway through turning into a fly, and he says, have you ever heard of insect politics? And of course his girlfriend says no, and he says there aren't any politics. And I think that's right. There aren't any politics, because politics is the legislation of morality in a way, and the organisation of interpersonal values. So insects don't have morality. I don't think animals have. I don't think any animal has morality. If I'm honest, I'm not absolutely sure we do, but we, at least most of the time. But to the extent it exists, morality is going to be something that we invent, and I think we invent it for very good reasons, and I think we're capable of reinventing it. I don't think it pre-exists our arrival. I don't think it's kind of weirdly out there in the universe. Okay, so is there a way of returning to this idea of the objective? And the kind of terms that you were using, your dictionary definition there, Gary, I think I did make a note of this. Free, detached and unbiased. Actually, free, detached and unbiased sounds like a description of an object to me, but there you go. Yeah, I think you can still kind of have that, or we can still kind of have that, but we have to. But it doesn't pre-exist our arrival. It isn't just out there in the universe. You can't look to the universe to find free, detached and unbiased values and moralities. I think if you're going to have those, you have to make them. I think if I can just kind of return to this object metaphor, I think if you're going to make claims for an objective morality and the existence of some kind of hypothetical detached unbiased object that our morality that kind of forms the shape of that morality, we have to shape it ourselves. And I think that's essentially what we're doing. I think it's a shame it's not given more credit, the idea of human enterprise and crafting this fantastic sculpture which seems to do all this fantastic stuff. But I think that's what we're up to. I think we're engaged in this act of sculpting the moral object of our value systems. And if objective value exists, if objective morality exists, it'll only exist because we make it and we give it the status of that ideal object. Oh, that makes some kind of sense.